I read an article this morning on CBC talking about how Toronto is considering licensing a city's payday loan outlets in order to cap the number allowed citywide. And to be honest, my first impression was I don't know who's coming up with these policies. Is it politicians or is it the payday loan companies themselves? Look, I'll be the first to admit that these payday loan companies are exploitive. They take people who are desperate for money and they sell them a very unfavorable loan with an extremely high interest rate. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with selling someone a loan if they need a loan, but it's just the fact that the loan is very unfavorable. It's a very expensive loan to get, and they're selling it to people who they know are likely to not make the best financial decisions. Despite that, I am for personal liberties. Like, even though I know smoking kills you, I support your right to smoke, right? I don't think the government should come and put you in jail because you're smoking or because you're doing drugs or because you're drinking, right? That's not the government's role and that's not their responsibility. That's your responsibility. And if you happen to have a problem with taking out payday loans and you're paying a lot of interest on those loans and wasting your money, you have the right to be financially irresponsible. You should have the right to do it, and you should have the right to gamble, and you should, and look, I'm coming at this. My family has personally been affected by gambling, and I understand the consequences of it. But I would rather live in a world where people have the right to be financially irresponsible than to live in a world where the government comes in and tells everyone what they can or can't do. If the government were to try to regulate a corporation's ability to lend out a loan, what they are really regulating is your right and your ability to get a loan if you need one. So, we think you're too stupid to be financially responsible, so we're going to come in and stop you from doing what you otherwise would have done because we know what's best. I personally have a big problem with that, but that's not even the reason I'm annoyed at this news. Do you honestly believe that putting a cap on payday loan companies is going to help poor people? It's going to be the opposite. It's going to harm the poor people for a number of reasons. First of all, if the regulation comes into effect, the people who rely on these loans will have to travel farther in order to get one. I mean, they're not completely eliminating these things from the city, right? So now there might not be one in your area, so that's going to be harmful for you. You're going to have to waste gas to go and get a payday loan. In fact, even if they were to outright ban payday loans from the city altogether, you would still have to travel out of town to get one, and people would do that and burn a lot of gas in order to do that. And for any of my American followers who are watching this, gas where I live in Toronto is extremely expensive. My dad was down in Arizona the other day, and he was saying that to fill up his gas tank costed about $40. Well, if you want to fill up your gas tank for a similar car in Canada, it's going to cost over $100. That certainly doesn't help. But there's something else about these potential regulations that really bothers me. And that's that it's basically handing the existing payday loan companies a monopoly on a silver platter. Like, what keeps prices down in an economy, right? We already talked about this in a previous video. It's competition. You have to have competition in order for the economy to be healthy. So when these regulations come in, what's going to happen is nobody else is going to be able to open a payday loan company. Nobody is allowed to give loans except for the ones with licenses. And who's going to be the ones buying the licenses? It'll be the existing incumbents that own the entire market share already, who already have a lot of money invested in the industry, in lobbyists. And when you keep out competition and you allow a monopoly to occur, what happens is people jack up their prices. That's how profit maximizing monopolies are able to make a lot of money, make a lot of profits, and exploit their customers because they don't have any competition. So as much as I personally find these businesses deplorable and hate seeing them on every street corner, it's important to recognize that these businesses are not necessarily behaving immorally by selling people a service that they are willing to pay for. And while it may be irresponsible financially to buy a payday loan, that doesn't mean that you're behaving immorally. And you shouldn't necessarily have your right to buy that loan taken away from you. I guess what I'm saying is that it's not the government's job to wipe your ass. It's your money and you can waste it however you want. And other people who legitimately need a loan for one-off situations shouldn't be punished because other people are financially irresponsible. Look, guys, the surge in these payday loan companies appearing on every corner, and I see them opening up all the time in my city. The reason that this is happening is a symbol of the hard times. It's the fact that the cost of living has been increasing. Taxes have been increasing at every corner. Everything you buy is overtaxed. The cost of labor is going up. The minimum wage is increasing. That's increasing the price of goods and services. We are over consuming and underproducing. Ever so slowly, our manufacturing jobs are all being outsourced to more efficient production economies. And even looking at how unfavorable some of these loans are, this is a byproduct of the fact that it's probably very costly to issue these loans. Who knows what percentage of their profits go towards collections? The company is really taking a lot of risk in giving these loans out. And at the top of their scale of customers, people who are most likely to pay back the loans, they are the people who are subsidizing the loans for the people who are least likely to pay them back. And I'm perfectly okay with that. That doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you. These are consenting adults engaging in fair trade. So I understand the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, let's limit the number that can exist in the city because that will protect people from making a decision that would put them in a financially worse position, even though that's a dubious claim. All it's going to do is put them in a worse position when the industry monopolizes and the prices go up. And then I see people saying, well, maybe we should just tax these corporations more or charge them licensing fees that are extremely expensive. Well, they're just going to pass those costs on to the customer. And then again, you're not actually protecting someone, you're just making them pay more. Like, of course, the government is going to be in favor of fees and taxes. They don't care who's ultimately paying for these taxes at the end of the day. They need the money. And the government is one of the biggest exploiters of people who make financially irresponsible decisions, which is the reason they tax cigarettes so heavily, effectively exploiting people who are addicted to a physically addictive substance. The reason they tax alcohol. In fact, where I live, the government has a monopoly on selling alcohol. They have a monopoly on casinos and gambling. Again, they have their feet dipped in anything that's psychologically addictive. Who are we kidding? They're not trying to protect consumers. They just want to have a monopoly on exploiting consumers. And now we're supposed to seek the government's help for making better financial decisions? Give me a break.